Welcome to the Compassionate Recovery Podcast, the show where we explore healing from sex and porn addiction, betrayal, infidelity, substance use, and everything in between. Wherever you are on your healing journey, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. My name is Jeremy Mast. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm a certified sex addiction therapist, a certified partner trauma therapist. I'm also the clinical director and founder at the Center for Integrative Change, a therapy and coaching practice dedicated to helping those struggling with and affected by sex and porn addiction, betrayal, infidelity, and addictions. We help them transform their lives. Recovery is not a straight line. We need compassion at every step in the way. So, wherever you are, now that you're here, pull up a chair, take a breath, and let's dive in. All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Compassionate Recovery Podcast. I'm here with Roland Cochrun today. And let me introduce you, Roland. Roland is the founder of the Successful Addict, a sex addiction recovery group designed for high achievers, executives, business professionals, and entrepreneurs. Because it can be difficult for these men to find like-minded guys in 12-step meetings, Roland created a recovery group designed specifically for men. He uses weekly meetings, daily accountability, and biannual 4-day retreats to create a tribe of men that can support each other through recovery. Roland, welcome to the show. It's good to have you.
Thanks, Jeremy. This is great. Our last episode together on my show, on my podcast was wonderful. So I can only imagine that this will be. I find the second podcast that two people record is always infinitely better than the first. So we'll do that, and then maybe we do a third, and then bring you back on my show here in the next month if you're open to it.
Oh, anytime. Yeah, that was a lot of fun last year. Yeah, I love that. And I look forward to our conversation today. I would love to start by hearing more from you about your work with a successful addict. Tell us more about why you built that program.
Yeah, I mean, every guy will resonate with this in recovery. When I got in as a typical high achiever, I don't do anything kind of, right? So if I get into it, I hire the best coach I can get my hands on, and I just ask him, how long to get me to where I need to get, and I just write the check and we go. So when I got into recovery, that was the same thing. I was like, okay, so from what I understand, it sounds like I need to be seeing a therapist, weekly. If early on, I would sometimes even say twice a week. We need a couples therapist. She needs a therapist. They all need to be very familiar with this particular, right? So we acquired all of that. And then I quickly found out that connection was actually far more effective than really anything was ever going to be. That if I could connect with men in this process and we would do this together, and then they would support me and I would support them, that would actually change my pathologies faster than almost anything could, right? So, and I kept hearing this over and over on unanimously, seriously, every single podcast, every single therapist. It was agreed upon amongst everyone that connecting with other men was so important. So I told my therapist, yeah, hand my credit card. I was like, all right, yep, throw me in the group, whatever. And he goes, oh, well, it's not like that, right? He's like, there's 12 step, just go to the SAA or the SAA website and find, punch your zip code in there. And there's, one that meets here at this church on this day. And I'm like, so hold on a second. Your master plan for the most effective treatment that we know for this issue is a peer-led, non-professionally facilitated, free group. That took me by massive surprise. I am somebody who always goes top shelf and gets whatever that thing is, because what do I find with top shelf? It gets me to wherever I need to go the fastest, right? So it's like just get the best, find the thing, put in the work, and then you'll get there quicker, right? Right. Everyone's always like, oh, it sounds so expensive. I'm like, yeah, well, if you go with the cheaper one, it just takes you 10 times longer. So I'm like, okay, hold on. I'm going to go to this place where there's no therapist on site, and whoever is there. And again, sometimes the guys are there on Tuesday, sometimes the guy's not there on Tuesday. What I found was a lot of like the high achieving guys that I really connected most with. I might not see the guy for like a month or two, and then I would, they're like, oh, text him or call him. I would, but the guy's busy, dude. I mean, he's got kids and he's coaching this team and he's got all this business stuff that he's doing. He doesn't have time to just text me and call me all. So basically what I'm getting at, Jeremy, was this, even though connection is the most important thing, getting it, real connection, deep, friendships of men that you want to hang around, who want to hang around you. A guy I want to call, five guys I want to call, guys I want to go like on a like let's go like let's yeah let's do all the recovery stuff, but like let's go on like a recovery camping trip. Like let's go like like that's what connection is to me. I've had this before in other groups that I've been a part of in business, and so when I got in this, it's like, come on, this is all we got. So that's really why I founded this. Was it's like there are ways to create infinitely deeper connections so much faster that we know they're kind of run-of-the-mill strategies. Why aren't we using this when your family's on the line, your marriage is on the line, custody of your kids is on the line? I mean, you have everything to lose. And then our best plan is to go to some free place where you're not even allowed to have crosstalk. I mean, come on.
Mm. So, first of all, I think that's absolutely right. Connection is so important, and it's something that so many who are entering into recovery just really, really struggle with. So, how does a group like yours or therapist-led groups, how does that lead to deeper connection amongst men?
So think about it. Like with connection, right? What do we know? I think it was either I think it was Stanford, and it was in 2025. They released a little study they did, and they were looking at what bonded like social cliques. Okay,
Mm,
and the number one factor is that they measured everything, and it was all everything was all over the place, geographical locations, backgrounds, all the factors really didn't line up, but there's one factor that did, and it was shared goals and aspirations. What we find is people congregate with those who are pursuing the same goals and aspirations with life. And so when you see this across all things, right? Immigrants from a certain country will usually find other immigrants from that country and befriend them, right? We will see people of minority groups and groups that are, misunderstood, and they will find each other and spend time together. So the point is, we naturally gravitate towards people who think like us. It is difficult to connect with somebody. Now, I'm not saying that that connection is not valuable. I'm not saying that, but it is hard, especially in a vulnerable place, when you don't feel seen and understood. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. So if you go in, this is a process addiction for everybody who understands. If you don't know what that is, I'm really sorry that you don't know what that is. Somebody should have explained that to you because it's a critical thing, I believe, to understand. But sex addiction, porn addiction, compulsive sexual behavior, this would fall into this kind of process addiction category where you're addicted to a thought process and there's no kind
mhm,
of substance entering your body. This is why
mhm,
treatment centers are a great place to learn about your childhood, but you can come out of there and act out the very next day. I mean, there in no way can you just detox from this thing. It just doesn't quite work like that, right? You're going to be probably just as much of an addict as you are the day that you got in, the day you get out, right? This isn't like meth
mm,
or heroin or alcohol where can kind of reset, right? The dependencies operates a bit differently. So, but to answer your question, right? How can we create this connection? I think it's very challenging if you don't feel seen and understood. And I think if you go in that room and everyone else kind of has a different addiction than you, mine was all about attention, validation. Mine was a lot of like real life digital stuff that like was a backup plan for me. I would do it if I couldn't get the real thing. But I mean, what did I want most? I wanted real interaction with a person, right? Even if it was virtual, I wanted that virtual interaction to be a real person giving me what I wanted. That was, it was all about validation, attention, me feeling unique, special, and then in control too. I also loved this whole aspect of me dictating the whole environment. So the reason I share that with you is then when I go in and there's some guy who's like, oh, I hate my life. It's so stressful and this job. And then I, went and masturbated some porn. I can't resonate with that because my life's amazing.
mm,
Right? My life's awesome. That's not really
mhm.
my issue. If something's wrong with my life, I change it. I don't have a boss who I hate. If I did, I would quit. I don't like bosses, so I've never I've never had a boss because I don't like someone telling me what to do. So the point is, I just didn't feel understood. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel like we had the same problem. And so in the end, the connection was there in a way. But I mean, if you don't feel seen, understood, and like the other person gets you, I do wonder how deep the connection can be.
Mm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, there needs to be some common connection, some what I would call some sense of twinship. Like, hey, your story is like mine,
Mhm.
right? I can identify with what you're saying in my experiences.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. It'd be like somebody from AA going to an eating disorder group, or somebody with a gambling addiction going to, I've heard so many stories of a sex addict who, and I hate hearing this story because it's so sad. They'll go to like an addiction treatment center that says they treat sex addiction, and almost always you're the only sex addict there. And they
Yep.
all leave and they say the same complaint. Oh yeah, it was insightful and this and that, but like no one else was there for what I was. All the other. I've even heard guys there saying, "You're here for that? I do that shit all the time." So I've even had guys basically kind of downplay it of like, "You're here because you're watching too much. You're watching porn and hooking up with girls. Like, what's wrong with that?" So I think that's the other sad thing is, again, I hear that, because therapists will criticize me and they say, Roland, connection's far more than just having that. I hear that. I hear that. That's not my argument. My argument was when you're in the lowest of lows of this place and you're feeling like a freak, a loser, like you can't believe that you've done what you've done. The last thing I need is another couple barriers, right, in recovery. And how do I know this? I've seen guys come to 12 step who never return because there's just like, man, this is just not like, I don't know what's going on with these guys, but I don't have this issue. And then they don't come back. And that was, it's a big reason why I started my groups was high achieving men have the same genre of addiction typically, right? The way their mind works. A lot of them are pursuing it, maybe different behaviors, but they're basically pursuing the activities in the same way. So yeah, so I'm not belittling there are many types of connection, but I would definitely say when you get discovered and you're in initial recovery, the last thing I need to do is learn how to connect with a population that I don't really spend that much time with. I'm usually at business networking events, the country club, at this fundraiser, at this conference. So I'm usually interacting with people at a pretty high level of intellect and performance. And so now I'm having to talk about this sports game that was on last night or this political event or it's conversations that I just don't typically have, and that's the last thing I need when I just need somebody to to be my friend at the worst time of my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you mentioned guys who are just starting this journey, how they can seek out 12-step groups or maybe a group like yours. I've found that many men are pretty reluctant at first to join any kind of group. And I wonder if you could speak to that. What are the benefits of going to a group, especially a facilitated group like yours or a therapist-led group?
Buy-in. I mean, and everybody needs to listen to this because I really believe this is the number one factor. If you're trying to actually recover and for the married men listening to this want to save your marriage, buy-in is everything for two reasons. One, you all know this. I mean, for the things that you really, really want to do in life, how fast do those things get done? Very, very quickly. For the things that we kind of want to do, that broken gate in the back of the house, it's like that thing will be broken for like 9 months because it's like or 2 years or 10 years. I mean, I just the pri the I don't want to go fix the hinge on that. And I also don't want to pay for it because I can do it myself pretty easily. But at the same time, I probably should have paid for it because now here it is broken for 7 years. My point of that analogy is if there's not buy-in, and I mean, you're thrilled to recover it. I want every guy to just hear what I just said. If you are not excited to go to your group, like truly, like if it's like, yes, it's Tuesday freaking can't wait, right? You're in the wrong group. I mean, it's this buy-in of like I look forward to this. This is so fun. These introspective exercises that we're doing. The other guys are just hilarious, and I just enjoy. That's how a group needs to be. It needs to be this enjoyable experience. So buy-in. That's the a challenge I think with a free come one come all peer group that is not facilitated. There's no requirements for attendance. There's no, I think the problem with that is if you think of every, like when, if, do you think the Team USA World Cup's going on here, right? So do you think Team USA would win if all the athletes from all their respective teams just showed up and there was no coach and it was just like, there was just like a ball on the field? Because that's what I really feel like a lot of these groups are. It's like, oh, let's do a shared reading. What came up for you? It's just, it's a shit show. It's like I thought this was a recovery group. Like what's happening right now? And so I think there's a massive amount of wasted time when you don't have a facilitator. You're basically relying on hope that that meeting is effective. And I think at a time where there is in a situation where there is a timeline, I would say most guys, if you do not do this right and get your shit together quick, you're going to wind up divorced and a relapse is almost certain to happen. So to me, that was what offended me so much when I go to these groups is I was like, this is your master plan. like this thing that is just happening where like I didn't get anything out of that. I'm just as much of an addict as I left. I didn't feel like any of that applied to me. I didn't feel like any questions. I have all the same questions in my head that I had. I'm not allowed to have crosstalk. I consider what that guy just said to him, which was crosstalk, was wildly inappropriate, and I'm really offended that that guy just said that to him. And all of a sudden, like, now I leave. So I was looking at this group, and it's just like, what did I get from this? Like what? So that's why buy-in, I think, is massive. If you're not like, this is awesome, I love this, right? I hear that every single time when a new guy comes in. It's like, man, I can't believe this. Like you know, I wish I had this even before discovery, just with other guys, just with other guys for my life. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, men are hungry for that kind of
Mhm.
connection, and we don't even realize that how much we're starving for that kind of relationship.
Mhm. Well, usually, I
So,
mean, recovery is the first time they taste it, right?
oh right, right, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That buy-in, that collective engagement in the recovery process, that is so important. Uniting around a common goal, around a common purpose, that
Yeah,
enthusiasm
they
for
call it
recovery.
co-learning models. They're
Yeah.
so popular right now in business. I mean, a lot of like business
Mm,
coaching consulting has kind of migrated towards that. Even leadership consult, like it used to be through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s that this fancy guy would come in and say all this impressive stuff and tell you what to do. What they found was when that guy left, nothing really happened. And so what we're finding is through co-learning models with shared languages and like I don't do shares on our groups. We have a formula you use to present your process addiction to the other guys in the group, and the other guys have a precise system that they're allowed to use back on you. I do not allow opinions. I do not allow advice. That is his opinion and his advice. A lot of the reason, I mean, Jeremy, truth be told, you're here in this exact problem because of opinions and advice.
mm,
That's truly what caused all this was people telling you the value of a woman and her attention, how good it was going to feel if all of that was downloaded to you by media, right? So my group, I'm not going to be part of the problem. I'm not going to have opinions and advice. We are going to talk about facts. We're going to look at the situation, and then you're going to be presented with tons of options, and you're going to walk away deciding how you want to live your life, what the legacy is that you want to live. I'm not going to be part of the problem, and I see that a lot even in this field. There's a lot of faith-based programs. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't believe in something. I'm just, the issue with faith is that we all interpret it differently, even inside of the same religion, right? Somebody can read a scripture and two people can say, no, 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 that means this. And that's and the irony is that dialogue is what the scripture, that's why they write in parables and analogies and stories, is they wanted it to be able to be applied to many situations. They wanted this cross discussion. The challenge is usually people draw one conclusion and force that upon people. And I think the issue with that is if you don't buy it, it starts to degrade buy-in is what happens. So then the buy-in just tanks.
hmm hmm Yeah, people need to be able to make meaning of scripture or of the content in a group. They need to make meaning of
Yeah, yeah.
that
If
for
if
themselves.
one guy will be like, "Oh, I lusted through the eyes," and I hear it, and I'm like, "Bro, that's just called natural attraction to an
Yeah,
attractive person." I don't, you can call that lust through the eyes and pathologize the heck out of yourself and have this big shameful experience. It's just being attracted. Now, do you need to keep looking at her? Do you need to have that? No, right? So now
right,
that's crossing over. But I mean, the
right.
fact that she caught your attention. I mean, brother, it sounds like she would catch everybody's attention, your wife included, right? So I think we need to be careful calling things that maybe not. And again, why do we need to be careful? Buy-in. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Roland, it's okay. Eat the meat, spit out the bones." I go, "No, if I go to a meeting and I disagree with 30% every time, if any other area of my life, I would not go back to that meeting." And so I think that's really the challenge with process addiction is because there's so many differences. I think we do need to be careful telling everyone this is how you recover, this is right, this is wrong, this is healthy, this is unhealthy. It might be for you, but
A
he might not
thousand
be for him,
percent. Yeah,
right?
1000%. And I couldn't agree more with what you just said about the groups. You and I have talked before about the need, right? And this is controversial in our field because right now 12-step groups are the primary form of
Oh,
social support that
the number
that
one
addicts and
referral
betrayed
thing.
partners seek
Yeah.
out, right? Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
and,
And I
and
refer to
wives are, to empathize with the men, your
yeah,
wife is going to be told by her therapist that if you are not in a 12-step group, you're not in good recovery. So I empathize with the men is like in many ways you guys are forced to do this because the system says that you're not in good recovery if you're not in one.
right.
The irony is the research says peer support, and if your peers are not there, what's actually happening at that meeting then? right? And that I think that's the thing is it's not the research doesn't say 12 steps cure men with sexual compulsivity. It's a connection disorder. It's an intimacy disorder. It's you becoming intimate with a stranger. It's you feeling connection to other men and love from other men that you've never felt before. So to me, if that's not happening at the group, now I'm again, Jeremy, I want to set the record straight. I know come off sounding anti-12 step. I have been to a 12-step meeting once. It was in Boulder, Colorado, and it was in the middle of the day, and I felt seen. I felt cared for. I felt connected. I wanted to hang out with those guys after. I wanted to text them. I wanted to call them. And I had one other meeting once on the East Coast that was like that. But I have been to, because I'm a pretty nomadic guy, so I've been to probably 20, 30, 40 other ones just through my travels over my life. And yeah, it's very hard to find that tribe. And so just I want to empathize with the guys there is you're going to be told if you're not going, you're not in good recovery. And again, what I would advise is the rebuttal there is I hear you and I want connection. I'm not getting it there. And I've
Yeah.
tried. I've been for
Hmm.
5 months and I don't feel a strong connection. I don't feel seen. I don't feel understood. That's
Hmm.
valid. But you know what your wife's going to say back, or at least this is what my wife said back was, well, that's fine. Go get it then. And that is fast forward 4 years. That's now the birth of the successful addict. Because what I found was there is no place for these high achieving intellectual guys who want a very high level orchestrated group. There just wasn't one. So my wife
Hmm.
told me to invent it, which was scary because slapping my name on this and telling the public what I had done was a frightening thing to do. But at the same time, it was the right thing to do, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy, I love that. Hmm. So, boy, you've said so much. When I hear you and I listen to your story, I can't help but think of my own because when I was struggling with my alcohol use, and I'm not sure how much I've shared about this with you, I was going to therapy regularly. I was really scared to connect, and I knew that I was not going to go to a 12-step group. I just wasn't. I was too afraid. I was too ashamed. I might have been open to seeking out some kind of support group, but I knew that I had to feel safe. And so often I talk to guys who don't feel safe. They don't feel safe going to a 12-step group. They are uncomfortable with the format. They don't feel a commonality with the other guys in the group. They might feel uncomfortable with the faith aspect for whatever reason. And so many times, kind of like you, I know I can sound anti 12-step group, and I'm not. I'm all for widening the paths of recovery. We as a field, I think, and again, you and I have talked about this, that 12-step groups are so prominent, and rightly so. They're available, they're free, they're a great form of getting peer support, which you're right, the data show is essential for recovery, but it's not the only place to get it. And that's what I
Mhm.
really want
Mhm.
people to hear
Yeah, and your
today.
peers might not be there. I think that's what
Hmm.
Jeremy and I are really trying to say in this episode is like the goal is pure support. And that's why I get very upset when these therapists are like, well, you need to go, you gotta go, well, that you need to try harder, you need to stop being so picky with your connection. I mean, there's always a comeback from the helper community on why you need to go because again, their blanket assumption is that you're not going because you're in denial, you're not going because you're grandiose, and you're not going because you don't want to go. That's their assumption. What if you just don't find it useful and there's no connection there? I mean, because again, the 12 steps have not been proven to treat sex addiction. They have not been. They have not. There's not been a single study showing that men come out of there. Frankly, when you go, usually the leader will be reading the book, and then when it comes to shares, he's like, "Well, I acted out 4 days ago," and and so there's just not a lot of sobriety in many of the groups too. And then the ones that are sober, at least with my guys, their biggest affliction was something that and I don't mean to say this. This sounds very bad, but like when your acting out behaviors have been limited to like pausing boob scenes on TV, it's just very different than me conquesting after women at bars and conferences. And the two need to be navigated very differently. And so when I'm calling my sponsor and he's never conquested after women before, and it's primarily this avoidance, he masturbates to porn to avoid his emotions and cope with negative feelings and whatnot. We just have a very different problem. So like I found myself I did not want to call him. I didn't want to call him when I was thinking about the things that I was thinking about because the guy just doesn't get it. And he hasn't, like, I've conquested after women since I was in middle school. I mean, that's just what a lot, that's kind of the high achieving man
Mm.
role, is this James Bond, like, how many can you collect, right? As trophies. It's just, it's sick, and I'm not proud of that, but that is just kind
Mm.
of masculine culture, right? So again, back to your point, we're not saying don't go. We're not saying there's no value there. I always tell everybody, hey, go try the one that you're there. You never know. There could be some really cool dudes there.
Hmm.
Right. So yeah, again, Jeremy and I are not saying, but I'm also saying if the goal is connection, go get connection. I mean,
Absolutely.
I started
Absolutely.
going to a free, and if the listeners can't afford for a paid for group, I started going to the Mankind Project. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but there's the MKP groups they're pretty prevalent around the country. Go to the Mankind, search the Mankind Project and see if you like that. And again, be honest, tell them, you don't have to do it on your first visit there, but on your fourth or fifth, tell them at the group, hey, I'm struggling with seeing prostitutes, massage parlors, pornography, whatever. It's a very loving group. It will be hard to share because but you know what? I've had guys who go in there and say that, and guess what happens? After the meeting, guy comes up and says, "Oh my gosh, I've been going to massage parlors for." And so again, I think guys, this last statistic I saw said that 18%. They say that it's probably actually higher than that. 18% of men struggle with compulsive sexual behavior. 78% of men struggle with deceptive sexual behavior, where they are hiding something from their sexuality. So they might not fall into an addictive or compulsive category. They might only be going to a strip club or a massage parlor once or twice a year. So they might not necessarily be compulsive, but they are doing something sexually that they are not disclosing to their partner or their friends.
I think that is a profoundly important statistic because, in my view, I think that can be part of the reason why a lot of the guys that I see, they might not reach the clinical threshold for what we would describe as sex addiction. And so they're not going to identify as an addict at a 12-step meeting. And that can be one of the barriers that they encounter
Can
in
be,
going to
I
us.
would say, is one of
Yeah.
the
Oh,
barrier.
yeah.
When I go there and I'm like, bro, you guys got, because that's what happened to me. I went there and I was like, man, you guys got issues. I was like, you guys
Yeah.
got issues. Like, stopping was not, all I had to do was get caught to stop. Like, the whole addiction language just never resonated with me because I'm
Yep.
like, listen, stopping it can be the issue. Now, am I going to want to go back and do it again? Yes. But again, does that make me an addict, or does that make me just kind of miss the days where I could just go get novel sexual experiences and attention from women, right? I mean, so
Mhm.
that's, which is an interesting thing to bring up. If you guys have Googled, go so the on the and for the listeners, I really want you to listen to this, because what Jeremy and I are talking about, a lot of people will say this is just semantics. Oh, addiction, 'cause
Right.
they're like, oh, that's just semantics. I go, no, it's not, because treatment is different.
Mhm.
If you are an addict, then yes, you actually do need a lot more of this ritualistic, check-ins with your wife might actually be beneficial, right? Like, if you're addicted, you do need to have these barriers and sobriety things woven into your day and your week. You do, because you are addicted, right? And so you need to do those things regardless of how annoying they are, because you are out of control. Right. And so it's not semantics, because to me, if you just like getting attention from women, that's different. That is, is it a thing with successful male culture where you want to be James Bond like? Are you trying to show off to the boys? Are you trying, it's still a problem. It just requires a very different type of treatment strategy to overcome. Addiction's going to turn you off because you're going to be like, gosh, why am I doing this? Like, I'm not, like, I have no urges or compulsions. Like, so it's not just semantics, but I want the listeners to listen to this. If you guys go into ChatGPT or AI or Google and just, if you guys Google the SAST, which is the addiction portion of the SDI, it's the portion of that test that they use to measure addiction. I want you guys to go back and
Mhm.
read those questions and ask yourself which ones actually say you're addicted or compulsive. Because if you read the questions, it says, have you felt shame after something you've done sexually? Who the hell is going to say no to that? It's going to say, hey, when you were a kid, did blah, blah, none of them have anything to do with you not being able to stop. So again, I know this is going to be a controversial, I'm going to upset all sorts of CSATs by what I just said, but listening to this, you get your ass onto Google and you tell me what those questions have to do with being out of control or dependent and unable to stop. When you read those questions, I think there's one that might indicate that. The rest are shame based questions.
Mm.
And it upsets me because when somebody scores on that test, we say you are an addict because this test said so. And I consider that irresponsible, in my opinion. I'm sorry for getting on that. I know it's going to offend people, but you tell me, seriously, Roland at successfuladdict.com, CSATs are welcome to email me. I want to hear what those questions have to do with being out of control and addicted to this. And again, for those saying it's just semantics, it is not. No wife wants to be married to a guy addicted to cheating. And if he is not, I think we're doing everybody a disservice by calling them that and using that language and throwing them into a treatment protocol that treats them like they can't stop because it's very dehumanizing and it's just not fun. And to me, it's besides the point.
Absolutely. Oh, man. First of all, I completely agree that diagnosing a sex addiction problem based on a screening test, which is what the SAST stands for. It's a sex addiction screening test. And you're right, it's maybe what, 60, 75 questions, something like that. And that is part of the overall SDI. It's one of the ways in which we can diagnose sex addiction, but it is irresponsible to use that alone to make any kind of diagnosis for a
It's a
sexual
guide.
addiction.
It's to
Hmm.
help us. Because again, if you
Yep.
go look at all the, and here's what I would say to that, Jeremy, is I say, go look at the questions. Those are all valid. If you say yes
Hmm.
to that, we got to look into that. Where is that shame
Yeah.
coming from? If that happened to you as a young man, a little boy, that is something we absolutely need to talk about. That will affect your sexual health. So that's to me is that it's more of an assessment of what things do we need to become curious about your views on sex, sexuality, attachment, relationship. But yeah, to me to say, oh, you're this, you're a sex addict, go drop 60,000 bucks and go to treatment. I don't know. I know a lot of guys my guys circle a lot of them. They do. And my
Oh
guys
yeah.
actually have no problem stopping for the
Mhm.
most part. Not all of them. I would say I do groups of 10. One guy, and I want everybody to listen to this because I want to be sensitive to this. One guy in every single group has an addiction typically to pornography, not to any of the other behaviors, but pornography.
Mm.
And that's another thing with sex addict is I don't know, it sure looks to me a lot of the times like the behavior that they have a hard time stopping is porn. Well, what do we know about porn? We actually know a lot about porn. It's actually classified as voyeurism. So to me, they're actually addicted to a secretive, deceptive, voyeuristic process. I think that's a lot easier for the wife to hear, especially because this habit started usually in their teens, sometimes before. So that's why I'm saying it's not just semantics. This stuff matters because
Hmm.
you're going to carry the weight of this diagnosis. Your wife is going to be
Yes.
married to someone with this diagnosis. You might be dipping into your 401k to go to this treatment for a problem that you may not have, right? And in terms of like from an addiction standpoint, you might actually be compulsive or just have some really interesting entitlement. Yeah, that's kind of mine. I just felt very entitled to going and getting attention and validation from anybody that I wanted, and I really just didn't give a crap. Got on the plane, went to the conference, and my goal there was to try to sleep with at least 2 to 3 women if I could, right? And I wasn't
Mhm.
addicted to it. I just freaking wanted to do it. And that's why when I
Mhm.
got caught, I was like, all right, I gotta stop. But stopping, like, I didn't go to the next conference and be like, oh, I can't resist. I mean, because I wasn't addicted to it. It was just a thing I like to do, and I got caught. Now I need to stop.
You're touching on something that I think is so important and something that's very dear to my heart is that there's a wide range of behaviors that we
Spectrum.
describe as addictive when it's really not. I use the analogy oftentimes of alcohol use because that's something that people can much more readily identify with. We've got on one end, we've got people that would be teetotalers, right? They're not drinking at all. Then you've got mm, people who have a drink on Christmas and maybe at Easter, right? Very infrequently. Social drinkers, casual drinkers, regular drinkers, heavy drinkers, but there's still no physiological dependence so that we can't rightly describe them as being alcoholics or addicts, right? Even though physiological dependence isn't a requirement for addiction. And then we've got people who are using alcohol addictively, right? So there's a wide range and most of the people I see, whether it be for substance use or for sexual behaviors, they fall somewhere within that 78% range that you mentioned, right? Of people who don't necessarily clinically qualify for addiction, they might technically reach the thresholds indicated on the sexual dependency inventory, the SDI, that
Yes, yes,
assessment that
correct.
CSAT's use for. But what I see most of all is that those individuals, they might have middling scores, right? They're kind of in the middle on the sex addiction screening test. They're in the middle on their diagnostic criteria, the other criteria that we use to assess for sex addiction. And by the way, no assessment can make a final diagnosis on sex addiction. That is up to you and the clinician to determine together.
Oh, and the test, just so everyone knows too, the test has never been validated. Just FYI, it's a test that was invented, but it's never actually there's never been a peer reviewed study to test its validity on this. So that's the other thing is it's an assessment that should guide discussion. Now,
Hmm.
and you said something great, Jeremy. In no way am I like I'm screwed up. I can cheat and not feel bad. I can do it again and not feel bad. I can lie and not feel bad. I can lie to a person that I'm cheating on and tell them that I'm single and not feel bad and manipulate them into as I can go after a married woman and tell her a little story to get her. My point of giving all these awful examples is in no way am I sitting here saying that when my high score on there did not indicate that I had some serious issues on
Yep.
so many fronts: attachment issues, intimacy issues, integrity issues, sexual issues, you name it. I am not, that high score. In no way am I not saying that I don't need massive help. And I have been, I'm going to intensive I fly out on Saturday. And a lot of people are always shocked by that. Oh, you're this deep into this and you run all these. It's like, yeah, because I'm screwed up. And so I go to 4 intensives a year. And I think anybody as jacked up as me, if you take your foot off the gas, it's probably not a great idea. So I keep my foot on the gas because my wife's worth it. So I just want everybody to hear the spirit of what I'm sharing this. I'm not saying don't take the test. I'm not saying don't, really look at the results and lean on those for some serious guidance. But I am not going to sit here and tell you I am a sex addict. That will never come out of my mouth. I
Hmm.
am not one. I just am insanely self-centered and I care very much about too much about what other people think. And I get all of my esteem from others, not from myself. And my recovery work is to change that list of things that I told you guys, right? And I'm doing pretty good. I would say it's always hard to gauge the healing, but I would say those habits are no longer appealing to me anymore. But I also would say if I took my foot off the gas, I'd be lying to you if I wouldn't say they become appealing, potentially become appealing again.
Hmm. Roland, I know we've got to wrap up here in just a second, but I wonder for those who are listening and they're curious about where else they might find peer support, connection outside of a 12-step group community, because you've done something so wonderful with a successful addict. You've created a home for those who are seeking support, who really want to change, who can experience that like-minded buy-in that you and I have been talking about. What are some other examples? You mentioned another one just a few minutes ago. What are some other examples that you've come across where people can, outside of a 12-step community, seek that support?
Yeah, I mean, from a nationwide standpoint, and again, they're not everywhere, but they do have virtual meetings. So you guys aren't. So MKP is the Mankind Project. It is free. They do have initiation weekends, and one of the agreements is that sometime inside of your first year of participation, you will attend an initiation retreat. They're cheap. It's like $500. And that includes food and lodging, and you go drive to this thing, and it's really neat. It's a really neat program. I would say the other ones I know of are all for profit, and again, just so you guys understand, I like for profit. I think to me. Jeremy, I mean, you got some bills to pay, don't you? You didn't go to school
Just a
to, so to
few.
me, yeah. So to me, I think vested buy-in from your helpers. A lot of people are like, oh, that for profit, blah blah. Screw that. The Stan Tatkin charges people like 30K to spend like a half day with them. Why? Because the guy is good. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
Jake Porter is expensive. Michelle Mays is expensive. Why are these people expensive? They're really good at what they do. And so to me, I hear you, and it's a bummer for those that don't have access to recess, but resources. But at the same time, I would find access to resources. I think there, when you get what you get with free is peer led, and I just want everybody to understand, as long as you're okay with that and the pace that that's likely to evolve at, that's fine. But to answer your other question, how else can we find this? Men's groups are huge. I would just literally get on Instagram. Go. I mean, ChatGPT is great. So if you want like a local one, say, hey,
Hmm.
do you know of this? If you want a certain type of men and men's group, ask AI. AI can kind of guide you towards what that is. There's so many beautiful ones out there. I will warn you that they are for profit. But think about it. There's usually lodging, meals at the retreats. I mean, there's expenses that this facilitator has on their side of things. The other thing that I would suggest too is don't be afraid to find someone you trust at a non-addiction container and ask for support. There are so many men who want to help other men, and if you come to them, I have my top people, you could call them sponsors. My top people in my life right now, Jeremy, know nothing about sex addiction. They haven't had a compulsive sexual problem. They're just three dudes that I love. Because here's the thing that I'll share. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, Roland, that's too scary." It's not though. You can tell them about some of the compulsive behaviors that you've engaged in, but that doesn't have to be the center around because this is a process addiction. So what I'm actually talking to those supportive men in my life is about my superiority complex and how I have to be the best in the room, the most impressive, right? So I'm talking about these men about my pathologies. I'm not calling some random dude and saying, "Oh, I'm about to act out." Like I'm calling them every day and we're jamming about, why I can't trust anyone besides myself. I'm talking about why I can't stop caring about money. Why I can't stop, right? Like these are the discussions we're having. So that's what I leave with everybody, Jeremy, is connections out there. You can get it. I'll tell you right now, people love to help people. They do. You just got to ask. And I would say if you don't want, if you, here's the last thing I would say is how you can even leave the compulsive behaviors out. If you are working with your therapist and you know what your pathology is, and you feel like this person understands, because that's what the three guys I was telling you, they might not use women like I've used women, but they all have struggle with the same issues that I do as being a successful, male in successful male culture. And so that's the other thing I would say is it's okay if you're really tough, if it's a really hard time getting the connection and you're scared, leave the sexual compulsivity out and just say, "Hey, I care about these things and it's stupid and it's harming my ability to create intimate connections in my life." And then just leave the acting out behaviors out. You don't have to necessarily share up. And then maybe 6 months later, a year later, if it feels safe to share it with this person, then share it. But again, I think we get too caught up in this field on the behaviors. And I think that's at the very end what spits out at the end. And I actually think it has very little to do with your psychology, very little to do with why this is happening, and very little to do with why you change. There's so many wives that have complained about my program. They're like, "Oh, you guys are talking about this, this, and that. You're not talking about the," and and my rebuttal is, "What do you want me to talk about strip clubs exactly? What do you want me to talk? What is there to talk about with porn?" And that's the thing is like they never can say anything back to me because I'm like, I am glad to do that. I am a recovery guy. I want to help them recover. But I always ask them, I say, "What is it that we need to be talking about exactly about, what color was her lipstick? Of what benefit is that?" And so that's the thing is to me, there's a lot of options to connections. That's what I leave with with your audiences. Connection comes in all shapes and sizes. You don't need to include the actual behaviors to talk about the screwed up parts of you that you want to change and try to have somebody in your life help you with that.
I love that so much. When we step back from the imperative that we often feel in this field to go to a 12-step group and we open ourselves to creative solutions to finding community and support in other ways like those that you just mentioned, there are so many more possibilities. And I don't know about you, but I care about opening up as many pathways as we can so that as many people can get help as
Yes.
we can. So
Yes.
I really appreciate you being on the show, Roland. Thank you so much. Boy, time always goes by so quickly when I talk to you. I'm so glad to see you. Tell us quickly, where can people
Ooh, I want
find
to add
you
one
if
thing
they?
too. For
Oh
the
yeah.
for the people out there, I know there'd be a flight and or a hotel or a long drive. There is a new nonprofit out there. They have a conference. It's called Lit Path is the organization, and it's the conference for CSBD. But a
Mm.
part of Lit Path is very, very affordable sex access to sex addiction therapists. There's a bunch of therapists who donate a couple hours of their time to gain access. So you just reminded me of there because I do feel, one of the things that really breaks my heart is I'd probably say 90% of this field is cash pay, and it's just tough because you and I both know there's way more people than that who are struggling with this, and marriages that are ending because of this. So anyways, litpath.org, I think, is their website. The conference is wonderful. It is free this year. There was a high net worth individual who donated to make free attendance for everyone. So if you are in the greater Nashville area, or that's not a far drive for you, you and your wife can attend for free if you guys drive to that. It's in what, 2 weeks, I think. But also, if you can't go there, litpath.org, they do it every year. So if you miss this year, it's fine. Go next year. But litpath.org has accessible treatment for those of you who would love. And the providers they have are pretty stinking good too. So just because it's cheaper doesn't mean you're going to compromise in quality. So anyways, just wanted to shout that out there for the people who need access to help.
That's fantastic. I so appreciate you bringing that up because I remember seeing their table at the conference
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
I'm going.
great.
My
Thank
wife
you.
and I go every year. We're going this next month and flying out there next week.
Oh,
It's a
very cool.
really great conference. It intermixes both helpers and people being affected by this. So it's a really neat environment. Yeah. For those of you who put that on your calendar, it's every June, and it's a really cool experience.
Mm, beautiful. So people want to connect with you if they want to learn more. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so it's successfuladdict.com. But the best thing I always suggest is buy my book. I did read it with my own voice on Audible. I say my own voice just because some people won't listen to a book unless it's read by the author. I'm one of those people. And so you can get it on Audible. It's short, it's 191 pages. I think on Audible it reads at right around just under 3 hours. It's a very short book. You guys can crank it out in a week. So buy my book, listen to my podcast. If you feel really called to explore something, my group, I will say it is for high achievers and entrepreneurs, and that is a requirement. So yes, if you fall into that category, reach out to me. But yes, that is a requirement. And again, it's not a high net worth. Do not let that title intimidate you. It's not about your net worth. It's about a mindset. If mediocrity is intolerable for you, if excellence and more is something you're pursuing, I've had tons of people in my group who don't necessarily meet, a lot of times they're just not at their potential yet. Right? They're at a job working their hardest, and they know they're capable of more. And a lot of times it's their addiction that's actually keeping them back. So yeah, don't shy away from reaching out. But I do include retreats, lodging and meals are included, so you can use your imagination. It's not a super cheap program, but I will tell you, I've had a very successful exit in business. This is not a profitable venture for me, so in no way am I trying to extort you guys out of money. It's a very involved program, and there's just expenses included in that. But yeah, if you guys resonate with this and want to participate, don't let the high achiever title intimidate you. It's not a bunch of like bajillionaires. I have guys in my program, making 90K a year. So it's not like you have to be this exceptionally wealthy individual, but it's more of a mindset that I'm looking on. I've also had kids who are still in college who have joined because they really identify as being high achiever, and they dip into their savings before they even have a job to participate. That's actually quite common. I actually have 6 of them right now who are doing that. So anyways, that's how you get a hold of me. And I'm passionate about this, as you can probably tell in my voice. So never hesitate to reach out. Get on Instagram, shoot me a voice note, whatever we got to do. But I'm happy to help, and I know Jeremy is too.
Thank you so much. And I love your passion. It's contagious. I always get fired up when I talk with you. So again, thanks for being here, Roland. I'm sure we'll talk again, and I can't wait to do it.
You bet. You bet. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Compassionate Recovery Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad that you chose to spend this time with us. I'm grateful that you're here. If you heard something that resonated with you, please feel free to share this episode with someone who might need to hear it. And be sure to subscribe wherever you listen so that you never miss an episode. To connect with us, please check out cicfreeconsult.com so that you can schedule a free consultation with one of our therapists or coaches. We are standing by here to support you. Wherever you are in your healing journey, we're here to help. Recovery is hard work. You don't have to do it alone. Help is just a free consultation away. So until we see each other again, remember, healing is always possible.